This week we're reading Parashat Tasria-Metzora, and it starts by the laws of the purity and impurity of a woman who is giving birth. And Rashi introduces us the idea that last week we finished reading about purity and impurity of animals. And after purity of impurity of animals, we're learning about purity and impurity of human beings. Now, this is a very interesting subject because it says later that the purity and impurity laws of the Torah are those that are one of the hardest to understand. Very hard to find what's the reason behind these things. So I wanted to first raise some questions and investigate some possible explanations, which might explain more than we know it usually about these things. So, at first it starts and says that a woman can give birth either to boy or to girl. But if a boy is born, then the impurity state is 40 days. This might remind some of us 40 days of Moshe Rabbeinu, the time he spent on Har Sinai to get the Torah. For a daughter, is twice as much. Now, why is the giving birth is impurity? Why is it twice as much by a girl than by a boy? And some of you might know what's highest level of impurity is a dead body. Interesting. So if somebody is touching a dead body, then it is also impure. All these things, but all the time when somebody is impure, has to go through purification process. So, what's the reason? So, one of the best explanations I heard goes as follows. Purity is related to holiness, is kedusha and tahara. And impurity is opposite. Impurity is lack. So, ultimately, that body means that there was a soul in this person, in this body, and the soul left the body. So since the soul has the ability to do good things, which is kedusha, which is holiness, therefore is going out, is losing, is the opposite, is an empty space, is a hollow created after leaving the body. So the same thing we find by a woman is giving birth. Because a woman gives birth, then the child comes out. The child is also an ability to create good things, to make good things, to make holiness, to be holy, to behave in a high level manner. So that's when leaving an empty space afterwards, it creates impurity and it's purification. And what about boy and girl? Boy cannot give birth to new human being. So a girl already contains the potential for the next generation, for the grandchildren. So therefore, when the daughter is born, therefore it's twice as much time, because we're already considering the holiness which is left in the womb of the girl who was just born. So this explains why it's more. And this also explains a lot of other things. Also explain why a human dead body, is more of an impurity than an animal who is dead. An animal also, when it's a cat, when it's a dog, when it's a lion, you see the carcass of such an animal, then it's very repulsive. On the other hand, when you see where something small, an ant or a worm, we don't care about this. On the other hand, when somebody sees a human being dead, human dead body, that's really scary. So these things, even though we say that these things are hard to explain, at the same time, it's very easy to understand. The more holiness which is leaving, that is creating the more empty space afterwards. And needs the more need of the purification. And very similar by a woman who is having monthly cycle. Very interesting thing it says in our parsha, when a woman is giving birth, it says that blood might come out, the woman might bleed, and this bleed is called dam tahor, is a pure blood. What does this mean? So when a woman is having a monthly cycle of bleeding, that's dam tameh, that's impure blood. What means pure blood? Impure blood, there's blood which is pure, there's blood which is impure. Same thing as we said. This explains wonderfully. Because what is the blood is living? This blood is and then monthly cycle, it is indeed is a potential, as the cell, as we know from biology, the cell which is leaving the body of the woman, and there's also potential to create kedusha, to create holiness, to create a new human life, which can behave in an elevated manner, and this creates the impurity. On the other hand, when the woman is giving birth and afterwards bleeding, this blood, we know that this is already tahor. This is very pure, because we know that the soul which left is not left because in the dam, it's not left within the blood. Rather, it's left. It was born. It's a new baby. It's a new human being. So therefore, the blood, we know, is tahor. It's completely pure. So this explains a lot of things. We can understand more of the concept of purity and impurity, and very interesting. After the impurity comes the purification process. And I think that this is a very good reminder for all of us, even those of us that do not give birth right now, or not in the position to give birth, like we men. For us, it reminds us of the cycles of our life, purity and impurity, the holiness and not holiness, being empty, leaving something after us, and being elevated, and being ups and downs. And this reminds us that it's a very normal thing, and the Torah provides us a way to purify ourselves and go through these cycles of the life. And in the meantime, we can say that it's completely normal and it's part of the human life, and not being upset when something is not going completely perfect.